Welcome back, boys and girls. You know what time of day it is. 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Thursday. Welcome back to our nightly newsletter. It is Tuesday, May 6, 2014. My name is Joseph James, broadcasting live from our corporate headquarters here in Los Angeles, California. Hope you guys had a great Tuesday. Markets were a little bit sleepy today. They might have been a little bit hungover from Cinco de Drinko on Monday evening. Nonetheless, though, jumping right in here this evening, on schedule here for tonight's newsletter. Gold falls asleep, crude trades sideways, and mini Russell collapses. We'll take a look at the markets today. We'll take a look at what happened in the news today. Strong news from Europe, strong news from the U.S., got a little bit of a Twitter malfunction going on, a little bit of sell-off in Twitter. We'll talk about that in a moment. And we get a great bit of this day in history as well. How about news for tomorrow? Once we finish going over what happened today, let's get ready for tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to a whole nother batch of big news. We got Janet Yellen. We got crude oil inventories. But it all begins this evening in China. So stay tuned, right? A lot of important stuff coming out of China right now. Very important for us traders anywhere around the world. And you know how we ended up. Don't drop off early here today, boys and girls, because at the end of this call tonight, I'm going to give you guys those trading opportunities. We've got selling opportunities across the board tonight. Gold, crude, and mini Russell, and maybe a buying opportunity on Twitter. I'm kidding around with you. Let's kick right off here, starting with the markets we have here today. But before I jump into the markets we have here today, I want to remind you guys, I have a special invitation for you to come out and join me in the trade room tomorrow afternoon. Take me up on that invite. Check out the free pass to attend our live trade room. I'll show you guys exactly how I trade in real time, so make sure you guys check it out. Next up, don't forget to join our nightly newsletter mailing list. If you haven't joined the mailing list yet, make sure you do so. Give me your name and your email address, and I will email you a heads up as soon as this newsletter is posted every evening before 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And then, of course, last but not least, I want to remind you guys, you can download all of the slides. You can download all of the commentary, all of these images. You can download all of them by clicking on the link right below the video here that says download today's newsletter charts and commentary. The goal of that is so that you can have those on the video, next to the video, so you can follow right along with me. So download a copy of the charts and then follow the charts right along with me here today. If you're watching this video right now on anything else besides sidewaysmarkets.com, make sure you follow the link below the video and make sure you're watching this on our blog so you get the most information. Let's get moving. Markets today here, crude oil. We'll start out with the black gold, we'll move to the yellow gold, and then we'll head right on over to the mighty mini Russell. First of all, crude oil opened right in the middle of the session today. You can see here, very big clue here. We talked about this today in the trade room. Closing price on Monday in the middle. Opening price on Tuesday, exactly the same, as if nothing had happened overnight. And we know that when that happens, it means we have a range-bound session. So we were expecting to see a range-bound session. Now remember, last night I gave you guys some selling opportunities up around that 100 even area, and so price kind of stumbled around a little bit. By late in the session, we had tested the highs, and look out below, we got that great selling opportunity. I'm going to talk about that trade we called last night, but you can see here, get back pretty much exactly where we started from this morning. So this tells me that crude oil is definitely balanced here today. We got, now again, big clue here, we talked about this yesterday. We stayed below the 100. We stayed below the prior week close, well below the prior week open, and it looks like we might be headed lower to that 98.80 down to that prior week low. As you can see here, volume was pretty much scattered throughout the entire session. Can't really make any assumptions on that. 110 ticks of range, relatively typical. Pretty much a zero net change today. 99.52 was the closing price. As you can see though, open inside were neutral, closing near the lows were bearish. Volume was pretty much everywhere here, so no clue there. But you know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an opening print tomorrow morning below 99.48 to be selling off, above 142 to be a buyer. The big thing here right now is on crude. Get a typical range, Nothing really standing out except for the fact that we clearly rejected that 100. We clearly rejected the highs here, and so we will be looking for selling opportunities going into tomorrow. Now remember, we gave you guys a trade call last night on the newsletter. Last night on the newsletter, we gave you guys an exact entry point here of that 127 to 111. Now remember, this is how we trade this. This is an anchor chart. So once we get up into this area, then all I need here is a selling opportunity that goes on lower. So I want you guys to remember, come join me tomorrow in the trade room, and I'll show you in real time how we use these, in this case, these resistance zones overhead. So we knew last night we were looking for a short at 111, between 111 and 127. So we knew that once we get up into that area, all we had to do now was look for that entry pattern short. As of writing this, we are up well over 50 ticks. We had just about 100 ticks per contract. We have bounced off that just a little bit here, though. But again, looking at the VIP chart from yesterday, we are from this afternoon, we are still bearish and still on plan here for lower prices on crude. Let's keep going here. Moving forward, down to the gold. Now, gold continues to be a pathetic price action right now. Had this really narrow range on Monday, another narrow range on Tuesday. Tomorrow we hear from Janet Yellen. Tonight we hear from Chinese manufacturing. Later on in the week, on Thursday, we got the ECB's big meeting we're all waiting on right now. Tough to tell exactly what gold is waiting on exactly, but we know right now, though, we're getting very little movement, very narrow ranges. Eventually, we're going to see something happen here big time on gold. One thing we're watching right now is a break below the 04. It's not 04.9. It's 04.4. A break below the 04.4, we should be able to sell off here quite easily down to that 1300.4, which is the prior week's close. So if you're trading gold right now, get us below that 044, and we're hunting after that prior week close down at 1300. So you get about 45, 50 ticks there of profit built into that possible short. Bottom line, though, right now, we know gold's waiting on something. Very difficult to anticipate what direction we go in next. You can see the volume is pretty much right in the middle. Not much we can do on this gold right now. But again, get me below today's lows, get me below the 13044, and we'll start looking at selling opportunities going into tomorrow morning. Moving forward here, last but not least, we have the mighty mini Russell. Checking out the charts here tonight, you can see we opened up, closed yesterday right in the middle, opened this morning right in the middle. That tells us what? Inside day, range-bound session, spent most of the morning chopping around here. We had a buying opportunity at this low this morning. Excellent buying opportunity off that low. I'll show you guys that chart in a moment. Spent the majority of the morning, though, inside the range, and then it wasn't until the afternoon session we finally got rewarded for our patience and price tumbled. As you can see, we got two volume spikes. One volume spike pretty much right where we began. As you can see, spent most of the session right in the middle. And then again, look at the bottom here. Got a lot of volume towards that 1105 area. This tells us the bears are definitely here right now on this Russell. Today's range, just about typical. 200 ticks of range. I want to see us above 200 ticks to get a good move that day, but pretty much typical range here. Closing price just above the 1100 big round number. Again, open in the middle, closed at the lows, volume at the lows. 2-day is bearish. Yeah, we're definitely seeing big clues here for those sellers grabbing control right now on the Russell. We are watching right now a break below the 1104.1 down to that prior week low. Check out the prior week low here, 1097.4. That's definitely going to be a price magnet. That will definitely be a profit target for me as we make new lower lows. We're looking at the 1097.4 for a nice easy target below the 1103.6. Bearish on the Russell here, volume near the lows. The only thing that we're worried about right now is if this thing happens to go lower overnight and then comes right back up in. So be on the lookout here overnight if you're watching that Russell. Back to our report here. We took care of the crude, we took care of the gold, and then again, gave you a trade call last night on the Russell. Gave you the exact entry area here at 1113.1. We go down into that area, we look for the reversal pattern, and we take the reversal off those lows. This trade earned over 70 ticks per contract. That's $700 for every $2,000 you have in your trade account. So 2 trades called last night on the newsletter, 2 for 2, 2 nice big winners, one of them on gold. We simply haven't seen anything yet, and we're waiting on gold to make its move here right now. And again, remember, if you want to get real-time trade calls, if you want to get the exact specific details about how we're going to capitalize on these charts, come out and join me tomorrow in our live trade room at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Now that you know what happened in the markets today, gold falls asleep, Russell tumbles lower, crude oil tumbles lower. Now that we know more about what's happening, let's take a look at what happened in the news today. First of all, we had some very strong economic news today, starting in Europe and trickling into the U.S. We also heard from Ukraine, a little bit more bloodshed in Ukraine, and kind of a little surprise tweet from the old Twitter world. Twitter drops 18% today, right, after a 3-month ban expired. First of all, global news. In Europe, we got strong manufacturing from most countries in the EU overnight. And in the U.S., we had a very strong trade balance report, which suggests the global marketplace is still very strong, even though everybody seems to be keeping all eyes on the China issue, right, regarding manufacturing. How about Ukraine? The pressure continues to build in Ukraine. Don't forget, these are hyperlinks here for you. You guys can learn more about what's happening out there in Ukraine right now. Fighting's getting worse. There are more talks all over Europe right now about civil war, military confrontation. Now, I've been saying this for a while now. I'm still amazed this has not taken hold for crude oil futures. I thought for sure speculators would have pushed this thing above 105 by now. But as you can see, though, clearly more emphasis is on the issue in China right now. Equities. Now, a little bit of a side note here, right? I'm not much of an equities trader, but I love to follow the news. In equity markets, Twitter basically brought everything down today. What happens is whenever you have an IPO, the people who are given preferential treatment to get their hands on shares, because that's the most difficult part about participating with an IPO, is you have to get shares. So to get shares of Twitter, you had to be an insider. You had to get preferred shares. Well, the benefit of getting those insider shares, in other words, being first in line to buy Twitter, you now have to wait 90 days to be able to sell it. So, of course, that 3-month ban on insider selling has now expired. And by the end of the session, the symbol TWTR had lost 18% of its value and had sunk all the other E-mini futures. That's what was dragging things down later on in the session. The real big issue now is that this just cracks open that can of worms now again. It opens up that debate over the value of these social media companies. Remember, Facebook really made headlines. Twitter had a very successful IPO, but everybody's still a little bit kind of wishy-washy on the valuation of these social media companies, because you can see how quickly the value of those companies can be liquidated with just a hint, right, of bearishness. Moving forward here, big news this afternoon. Every week, Wednesdays are inventory numbers on crude. Tuesday afternoon, we hear from the American Petroleum Institute regarding crude oil inventories. Today at 4:30 p.m., we heard from the API crude oil report. This showed us the first build in inventories in the last 5 weeks. So very, very important here. Inventories getting larger. Now remember, this report, very, very important. This report is going to lead into tomorrow's 10:30 EIA number. So Tuesday evening at 4:30, we get the API number. Not that important. What's most important is tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. in the U.S. morning session. Is the API number, is that going to match the EIA number? We'll have to wait and see what happens. And remember, tomorrow we have inventories, which means we've got to be on our best behavior. We're not going to try to force trades tomorrow on crude. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. So now you know what happened today in the markets. You know what happened today in the news. What happened this day in history? Pretty interesting stuff that happened May 6th, 1937. This is incredible. Now, if you want to see an incredible video footage, they have the original video footage on YouTube. Of course they do, right? I could probably find the original video footage of my birth, right, if I looked hard enough out there. Everything seems to be on YouTube these days. Click that hyperlink right there, and you can watch in all of its glory the Hindenburg explosion. 1937, the German airship, the Hindenburg, the largest dirigible or airship ever built. It explodes in Lakehurst, New Jersey. 36 people died. Just an incredible event. You got to follow that link and watch that video footage. Now, this is pretty cool. I found this to be really interesting. May 6th, 1954, about 20 years later, the first person, a 25-year-old medical student, Roger Bannister, cracks track and field's most notorious barrier, the 4-minute mile. Now, I'll tell you right now, a 4-minute mile, if anybody's ever tried to run 1 mile less than 6 minutes, you got to really push it, right? 4-minute miles, no joke. Now, what was really crazy, kind of a fun fact on this, is that this record only lasted 46 days. And Roger Bannister was quoted as saying that he very rarely ever even ran. He just went out there and ran as fast as he could. Pretty amazing stuff. And as always, you can follow the hyperlink here and learn more about Mr. Bannister. Pretty remarkable story. And then, of course, May 6th, 1994. I remember this. I was just a teenager at the time. I was, almost in high school at the time? I barely remember this, but I remember thinking, what a funny name, the Channel. 1994, the Channel, which of course was the English Channel. It was a channel, a tunnel, right? Hence the word Channel. Queen Elizabeth II, French President Francois Mitterrand, a rail tunnel under the English Channel. Now, very cool. This 31 mile long, this cut that commute time here to 35 minutes, right, between England and France. Talk about changing the way Europe moves, right? This is the first time that England actually was attached to, right, the mainland Europe since what? The Ice Age. So very just incredible engineering, incredible feats of human abilities, right? Put a man on the moon, dig a tunnel from France to England. Pretty darn cool stuff. Learn more about what happened there by following that link here. There's your hyperlink, and you can learn all about the Channel. Now that you know what happened this day in history, let's roll those sleeves up, and let's get ready for tomorrow's news. Now, news for Wednesday here in the U.S., we've got productivity and cost, we've got Janet Yellen at 10 o'clock, and we've got inventories at 10:30. Now, the big news on this starts well before we get to the U.S., right? It's going to start later on tonight. We're going to begin here tomorrow with this evening. We've got, first of all, 7 p.m. tonight, almost 8 p.m., we hear from the Bank of Japan. 9:30 p.m., we got retail sales in Australia. The big news, though, drum roll, please. 9:45, we've got manufacturing PMI out of China. Remember, everyone's been watching those disappointing manufacturing numbers. We saw the last quarter of manufacturing 4 straight weeks of sub-50 manufacturing reports. This is what's causing everything slowing down right now. This is to blame. The manufacturing sector in China has clearly been on everyone's radar screen. We just talked about the fact that Ukraine, the bloodshed in Ukraine, why is that not pushing crude higher? You can blame it on manufacturing in China. So this is a very important report here this evening. And members, if you're planning on being with me tomorrow morning in the trade room, be keeping a close eye on that volume and the average true range coming out of London tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Because as we always say, if the news gets us moving overnight, we may have to adjust our strategy a little bit tomorrow morning in the U.S. Big news here in the U.S. tomorrow morning, productivity and costs. We've got Janet Yellen on the microphone. Now, this is not just a speech tomorrow. This is going to be testimony in front of, the Joint Economic Committee in Washington, D.C. So we know people will definitely be listening in to that tomorrow morning. So will we in the trade room. And then again, tomorrow we have the 10:30 a.m. crude oil inventory report. Very important because we're going to combine that with the API number we saw this evening. And remember, when it comes to crude oil inventories, remember to stay patient. I'm sitting on hands tomorrow morning from 10:15 to about 10:40 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm not going to force trades tomorrow morning early. If crude's not moving, I'll let it sit there and relax. I'll look for crude trades after 10:30 a.m. So don't be surprised if we get a big range coming out of the London session because we got that news out of China. Okay, don't be surprised if that crude oil futures market has moved over 115 ticks overnight, wide range going to the U.S. session, and then watch it just sit there until 10:30. After 10:30, hopefully we get some new personality, and we'll figure out what to do at that point. But again, do not be surprised if we see a big range overnight and a very sleepy personality between 8 o'clock and 10:30 tomorrow morning in the U.S. session. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong, but usually on Wednesday mornings, when there's a lot of news overnight, that news overnight's going to get that market moving in the London session, so be ready if you're trading London tomorrow morning, 3 a.m. until 7 a.m. But if you're like me, trading the U.S. session, if I see crude with an ATR above 100, right, above 100 or 100 ticks, I've got to be worried now. I've got to be at least on my best behavior. I'm looking for clues in market personality tomorrow morning, and I'm going to stay very patient trading crude because of the inventory report at 10:30 tomorrow morning. Please remember, everything I'm talking about right now, I'm going to go over with you guys in real time tomorrow morning in my live trade room. Speaking of which, let's jump over to my anchor charts here. Let's roll those sleeves up, and let's put together some opportunities here for tomorrow. We are still bearish on crude right now. Okay, still bearish on crude. A little bit of my confidence to the downside right now comes from that VIP chart, where we saw that 100 level completely rejected earlier this morning. Now remember, anything can happen. I can't predict. All I can do right now is find my areas to be a seller. We got short earlier on today at the 127 area. Now we're looking to go lower. So I am looking for selling opportunities here tonight on crude. I've got targets here at 99.10, 98.74. The low of this channel will definitely be a good profit target, 97.70 and 96.99. Again, a lot of news overnight. So don't be surprised. Oops, sorry about that. Wrong button. Don't be surprised here if we go higher or lower and then start range-bound trading tomorrow morning. So again, if we get this price taking off the downside, get to selling. I'm using targets here at 99.10, 98.74, 97.70, and 96.99. But again, if that news overnight causes things to get shaken up, I will update this chart tomorrow morning for you guys and gals in my live trade room at 8 o'clock. If we push higher here, I'm looking for more selling opportunities as we go higher. Get me above the 188. I then can start looking for buying opportunities. I get a very small amount of room, and I'll use my profit target above at 101.46. Looking for selling opportunities here on crude. How about the gold? Now, gold, as you can see here, if you remember last night, I was looking for buying opportunities on gold. So we still have them, but we just simply haven't seen gold take off to the upside here. So very difficult to tell what's going to come next. Very sloppy as we pull back right now. All I know is I'm looking for buying opportunities here. I've got a target up top here at 13.17.9, 13.24.2. That will be my profit target. I'm looking for buying opportunities at these two locations, 13.076, 13.02.9. If I can get below the 13.01.3, that's my line in the sand, and I've got 1293.9 as a profit target. So I'm looking for buying opportunities as long as we stay above the 1301.3. Get me below that 01.3, and I'm now looking for selling opportunities with targets at 93.9 and 81.4 on the gold. Buying targets above 1317.9. Bullish on gold until we get below the 1301.3 here, guys and gals. And then last but not least, We can't forget about that mighty mini Russell. We had a great buying opportunity on it earlier today, but now as you can see here, again, later in the session, we finally tumble lower. This confirmed exactly what the long-term trend was showing us. So we knew to look for those selling opportunities. We had to get through that range earlier, if you remember, right? Once we got through it, now we had those selling opportunities, and you can see here, I'm sitting right on top of some support here right now. So I've really got three options. If we sit here sideways, I'm going to sit on hands. If we push lower, I'm selling short down to 97.4, down to 90.8. If we go higher, I'm selling short at 12.9. I'm selling short at 17.9. I have two areas to sell. And if we do get up for the short, I'll be using my profit targets here at 1105.7, 1097.4, and 1090.8. I've got profit targets below. Again, if price just goes lower here, if I get a new lower low, I'm not going to waste any time, and I'm jumping in short using that profit target at 1097.4 and 1090.8. If we do go higher, and I would rather go higher so I can get a better entry on this, you know me, I want to sell at a premium. I would never want to sell at a discount. So we would love to get short here if price can jump higher here overnight. I've got shorts here 11.12.9 and 11.17.9 on the way lower. Guys and gals, that will wrap me up here tonight for our nightly newsletter. I want to thank you so much for stopping in today. Don't forget to share this with a friend. Don't forget to join our nightly newsletter mailing list on the left-hand side over at Sideways Markets. Don't forget to register for your free pass for our live trade room. And remember, click that link here below the video and make sure you download all these charts. These charts are going to be valid until the end of the day tomorrow. So download them from SlideShare, print them out, have them ready for tomorrow. Come see me tomorrow morning in the trade room, and I'll give you guys updated chart information with exact trade calls. And last but not least, don't forget, my wife Megan and I built SchoolOfTrade.com over 10 years ago. We are the premier place to learn and earn this great business we call day trading, and I'm excited to welcome you guys and gals into our community of traders. We have beginner, intermediate, and advanced level memberships. We also offer a free trial, and part of that free trial, I'm going to invite you to come out and join me in my live trade room tomorrow afternoon so you can see with your own two eyes exactly how we capitalize on the information we're sharing with you here. Once again, my name is Joseph James from our corporate office here in Los Angeles, California. This was your nightly newsletter for the 6th of May, 2014. Don't forget to come back and see me again tomorrow afternoon, and we'll see you guys in the trade room at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Signing off now. Adios, amigos. Bye-bye for now.